Let's get some more reaction now, because the Queen's death does continue to draw unprecedented crowds across the United Kingdom. Cathedrals, royal residences, they're the scene of mass pilgrimages. And so let's bring in the former ITV News royal editor, Tim Ewart. Tim, good to see you. Thanks for your time this evening. Let's go back to the main pictures of the day. This is the procession through Scotland on the way to Edinburgh. The pictures were absolutely stunning. And for a lot of people, I think it's fair to say that first image of the coffin as it emerged from Balmoral Castle was very much the moment that this all... There it is right there. It is the moment that this all became very real, wasn't it?
You know, Peter, I couldn't have put that better. I mean, you're absolutely right. There's been a strange sort of sense of not quite realising what's been going on, or not being aware of the implications of this for the last couple of days. But I think when people saw what you're seeing now, which is the Queen's coffin leaving Balmoral on its way to Edinburgh, the truth of what has happened, the reality of what has happened really sank in. And there were a lot of people on the streets, as you can see, and a lot of genuine sadness today. And I think that mood is now going to prevail very much so right through until the funeral, which is next Monday.
Tim, we know that people were going to turn out to line the streets to pay last respects, but were you surprised how many and for how long they waited? It seems every village and town on this route.
No, to be honest, I wasn't surprised, because I followed the Queen for a few years, and I know the sort of I know how popular she was. I mean, what I would say is this: you ain't seen nothing yet. I mean, what is going to happen in London over the next few days is going to exceed this by 100 times. The crowds in London are going to be massive, and there are already plans in place for people who are arriving from abroad at the funeral to be transported in a certain way, people who want to go and view the Queen's coffin as it lies in state at Westminster Hall are being warned that there could be queuing for literally hours. So this was just really a taste of what is to come, because I think people are going to descend on London now in really extraordinary numbers.
Tim, just share with our audience, if you wouldn't mind. You mentioned there you worked with the Queen for many years. What are your reflections? What was it like to work with her? And is there a particular story that stands out for you that you will always reflect on and it'll always make you smile?
Well, I followed the Queen very much in the latter part of her travelling life. In fact, her last trip to Australia was one of the ones that I did. I mean, images, they're flashbacks, but one of the strongest images I have actually was of the Queen in Brisbane going down the river. And I apologise for not remembering the name of the river. But it was after some serious flooding there, if I'm not mistaken. And the number of people who turned out just to line the river bank, you know, just to see a boat go by with this little figure on it was really quite extraordinary. And you can be as cynical as you like as a journalist, and I certainly was, but it never ever ceased to amaze me the numbers of people that the Queen would attract. And you know, we saw pictures yesterday of William and Harry plunging into the crowd and chatting, and the Queen didn't do that. And latterly, particularly not, because she very much disliked the fact that everybody was holding up a phone. She wasn't, you know, she wasn't seeing people. She was just seeing the back of a but still, the crowd. That's the abiding image for me. Just the number of people who turned out, wherever it was, Australia, Canada, you know, any of the Commonwealth countries that she went to, even France, where they were very Republican, big crowds. She had an enormous pulling power.
Tim, it is the Brisbane River, so not that technical. You'll remember that from now on.
Otherwise known as the brown snake.
Yeah. Nothing like Sydney Harbour, but we won't get into that. You talk about Australia. I don't know whether we're biased, but the Queen did seem to have great affection for Australia from a very young age. The tours in which she undertook, but also the audiences which she held. I mean, just a couple of months ago, an audience with racing boss Peter V'landys, for example, and that's just one of many. Well,
Australia was her first big overseas tour, if I'm not mistaken. And I think there are some extraordinary figures attached to that. I think she went to something like 40 towns and cities in Australia. I think it said that she met, I don't know, 70% of the population. There is a statistic as to how many people turned out. And she had a great love of Australia. Now, whether Australia's love of the monarchy is going to be as strong once there is no Queen Elizabeth but a King Charles, you would know better than me. But I suspect that her personal popularity was a big part of people's affection for the monarchy there.
And just to wrap up, I mean, you spoke about the younger royals at the start of your answer there, and I wonder what you think about this, because the Queen famously, she never did interviews. Charles has done interviews, William, Harry, they've all done interviews now. Is this part of the changing face of the royal family? Can we expect more of this going forward, do you think?
Well, not from Charles, that's for sure, because the monarch doesn't give interviews. The Queen never gave one. And Charles has made it absolutely clear that he's going to stop commenting on issues once he becomes the king. I mean, he was asked if he would continue to speak out about the issues, and he said, "I'm not that stupid." We will hear from William. Prince Harry, well, we'll hear from him a lot, but it won't be, I don't think, in this country. but I think we'll find that William is going to be the voice of the royals, if you like, much, much more than, obviously, the king. Other interviews, I'm not so sure. The difficulty with interviews is that if you do an interview with a member of the royal family, you kind of have to do it on their terms. You have to normally stick to specific topics, and that sometimes raises some awkward questions. But in terms of Prince William, you'll be hearing a lot from him. He will be talking about the issues that matter to him and the issues that matter to his father.
Yeah. Following the example of the other heir apparent, now he's the heir apparent himself. Tim, a pleasure to talk to you this evening. We really appreciate it.